We have all crossed paths with them. They are the individuals who walk into a crowded room and instantly command the entire space without even trying. They ooze an unshakable magnetic confidence that makes everyone else in the vicinity suddenly feel hyper-aware of their own flaws. They carry an effortless, disarming charm that effortlessly pulls people into their orbit, combined with a suffocating, heavyweight sense of superiority that subtly cuts you down and makes you feel small, inadequate, and entirely insignificant. When you are standing right in front of that kind of presentation, it is painfully easy to look at that bulletproof mask and assume they have life completely, flawlessly figured out. You watch them speak with total certainty, glide through social situations with zero hesitation, and brush off pressure like it is nothing at all. Naturally, your brain tells you that someone who projects that much unyielding power must be completely secure in their own skin. Because of this brilliant illusion, most people walk around with a massive, dangerous misconception. We genuinely believe that narcissists are deeply happy with who they are, that they thoroughly enjoy the pain and confusion they inflict on everyone around them, and that they live in a permanent, untouchable state of self-satisfaction. We picture them floating through life totally immune to guilt, self-doubt, or any kind of internal emptiness. In our minds, we view them as cold-blooded, unstoppable emotional monsters who are winning at life while leaving a trail of broken hearts and shattered self-esteem in their wake. However, the brutal psychological reality is entirely the opposite. Beneath that smooth, flawless titanium surface, they are actually some of the most intensely tormented human beings you will ever encounter in your lifetime. The truth is that they are not running the show at all. They are not the masterminds or the untouchable kings and queens of their own domains. In reality, they are running for their absolute psychological lives, sprinting away from a terrifying internal monster living deep inside their own minds that they know they can never, under any circumstances, defeat. To truly understand a narcissist, you have to look past the loud confidence and stare straight into the core of who they are, or rather, who they are not. At the exact center of a narcissist's identity, there is no solid foundation. Instead, there lives a chronic, gnawing emptiness that never goes away. Imagine walking around with a massive, invisible black hole right where your sense of self, your self-worth, and your personal identity are supposed to be. While a healthy person builds a stable sense of who they are through life experiences, values, and self-acceptance, the narcissist has a total vacuum sitting right in their chest. This endless void is not just a passing bad mood, a stressful week, or a temporary bout of the blues. It is a permanent, agonizing background noise that follows them everywhere they go. It creeps with them into every room they enter, hangs heavily over every single relationship they try to build, and shadows every major milestone or achievement they manage to unlock. They can win an award, buy a luxury car, or be surrounded by people laughing at their jokes, but that background noise never stops whispering to them. It is a terrifying, bottomless pit that is always waiting to swallow them whole the moment the distractions stop. The moment the applause fades in a room, the moment the crowd disperses at the end of the night, or the exact second the front door closes behind them and no one is looking at them anymore, that terrifying void rushes back in like a devastating tidal wave. In that exact fraction of a second, the grand, larger-than-life illusion they have built completely drops, and they are left face to face with a total and utter blankness. Facing that internal nothingness is not just uncomfortable for them, it feels like actual, literal, psychological death. It feels like slipping out of existence, because without an external reflection, They genuinely do not know who they are. That is the real, hidden reason why they chase attention, status, and relentless admiration with such frantic obsession. They aren't doing it because they just love being the center of the room or because they are purely arrogant. They chase it out of sheer, unadulterated survival. Without your eyes on them, without your praise validating them, and without your applause lifting them up, they literally feel like they are starting to dissolve and disappear inside their own skin. Every bit of praise they demand from you is just a temporary patch slapped over a wound that refuses to heal, keeping the terrifying nothingness at bay for just a little bit longer. This terrifying reality is the exact reason why a narcissist can never truly rest, relax, or find peace. To them, solitude is not a comforting retreat or a chance to recharge. It is their absolute worst possible punishment. Silence is dangerous because it strips away all the loud external distractions they rely on to prop up their grandiosity and hide the hollow space inside. If you pay close attention to how they operate day to day, you will notice they fiercely refuse to allow a single drop of stillness into their lives. They will frantically fill every quiet car ride with loud music or phone calls, every awkward silence in a conversation with forced chatter, every unstructured hour on their calendar with a new project or conquest, and every peaceful environment with a brand new manufactured drama just to get people talking again. They are not actually living their lives, enjoying their successes, or savoring the present moment. Instead, they are running a relentless, non-stop marathon of escape. The entity they are desperately trying to outrun every single second of the day is the suffocating experience of simply being alone with themselves, completely unmasked, utterly undefended, and totally undefined by the approval of others. To the outside world, this constant driving restlessness looks like high ambition, elite standards, or the relentless hustle of a high achiever who refuses to settle for mediocrity. But when you strip away that impressive exterior, you find a far more painful truth: a total psychological incapacity to feel any sense of sustained fulfillment. The absolute second they finally obtain something they spent months or years chasing, its value completely collapses in their hands. The thrilling dream relationship that felt like a fairy tale a week ago suddenly becomes boring, suffocating, and disappointing. The monumental career achievement that was supposed to change their entire life instantly feels empty and meaningless. The very person they completely idealized and placed on a pedestal is suddenly viewed as deeply flawed and unworthy. This tragic cycle does not happen because the world keeps failing them or because they have bad luck. It happens because their internal psychological architecture is fundamentally incapable of holding on to satisfaction. True fulfillment requires an internal ability to feel safe and emotionally grounded. Because they lack these capacities, they are trapped in a permanent state of psychological starvation. They live frantically wanting more and demanding more, while being totally unable to taste or enjoy what they already have. It is a lifelong hunger that no amount of money, fame, success, or validation can ever feed. Every single narcissist builds a massive, rigid, and heavy psychological fortress out of an artificial image. This fake persona is not just a casual mask they put on for work and take off when they get home. It is a full-time, high-stakes theatrical performance that they are forced to maintain, protect, and perform every single second of the day, with zero breaks allowed. Imagine what it would actually feel like to live your entire life on a stage where you are terrified to drop character even for a single microsecond. Picture the constant, grinding, low-level panic humming in the background of your mind, knowing deep down that if anyone ever caught a real glimpse of the flawed, insecure human being hiding underneath, the entire massive construction would instantly crumble into dust. Because of this constant terror, their minds never rest. They work on absolute overdrive 24 hours a day, constantly calculating how every single person in the room perceives them, meticulously rehearsing conversations ahead of time, and scanning every casual interaction for hidden threats to their fragile image. This profound, unrelenting exhaustion is the direct engine behind their sudden, unpredictable bursts of rage, their hair-trigger irritability, and their obsessive, suffocating need to control everyone and everything around them. When people in their lives witness this, they are often deeply baffled, wondering why someone who acts so powerful and successful is so fragile, reactive, and easily wounded by the tiniest piece of criticism. The answer is actually quite straightforward. They are not just defending a bloated ego or a stubborn pride. They are fighting a desperate, life-or-death battle to protect the only psychological structure keeping them from completely falling apart. They are not arrogant because they genuinely feel superior to you. They are arrogant because they cannot mentally survive the terrifying, earth-shattering feeling of being just an ordinary human being. Beneath that polished, gleaming armor of superiority lies a deep, bone-chilling, agonizing dread of being forgotten, overlooked, or rendered completely ordinary. For a healthy person, the idea of blending into the crowd, being just normal, or experiencing a quiet, average life might feel a little underwhelming at times, but it is entirely tolerable, safe, and a normal part of everyday human existence. But for the narcissist, being average is never just an uncomfortable thought. It is the exact, literal equivalent of psychological death, because their entire identity has been built exclusively on the absolute requirement that they are special, chosen, and uniquely exceptional. The mere possibility of being unremarkable feels like a direct, life-threatening attack on their actual existence. This deep-seated, desperate terror is precisely why the natural, unstoppable process of aging is uniquely brutal and utterly devastating for a narcissist. As the years march on, time relentlessly strips away all the sharp, glittering external markers they spent their entire lives relying on to feel superior and protected. Their physical beauty begins to fade, their professional power and status shift to younger people, and their cultural relevance is challenged by a new, vibrant generation that doesn't care about their past achievements. As these external sources of nonstop validation begin to dry up and dissolve, the intense suffering they have been frantically outrunning their entire lives finally catches up to them, crashing over them all at once, because they have built zero stable internal foundation to fall back on. This is why aging narcissists so frequently transform into deeply bitter, highly controlling, and intensely paranoid individuals. They watch the world stop responding to them the way it used to. They watch the applause vanish into thin air, and they are left completely panicked by the ultimate unspoken nightmare that has haunted them since day one. The terrifying realization that if they are not extraordinary, they are absolute nothing at all. A narcissist can easily accumulate thousands of admirers, build a massive social media following, surround themselves with a large family, and keep multiple romantic partners rotating through their lives. Yet, despite being physically surrounded by people all day long, they can never truly let a single human being inside their inner world. Real, authentic connection requires raw vulnerability, mutual trust, and the willingness to expose the fragile, wounded human being hidden deep beneath the grandiose adult mask. Because the narcissist is completely incapable of taking off that armor and showing any true weakness, they live their entire lives trapped in a state of permanent, crushing emotional isolation. This is a profound, hollow level of loneliness that no amount of public attention, applause, or adoring fans can ever cure, and a deep emotional hunger that no relationship on earth can ever satisfy. Instead of building real, meaningful emotional bonds based on mutual care and understanding, They fundamentally mistake control for closeness, possession for partnership, and obedience for love. When they reach out to connect with other human beings, they use the only tools their broken psychology knows: seduction, manipulation, charm, and manufactured dependency. They hook people by making them feel special, only to turn the dynamic into a power struggle. Because these tools are entirely transactional and fake from the start, every single relationship they touch eventually breaks down, leaving both parties feeling completely used, empty, and abandoned. Yet when the relationship fails, the narcissist never looks inward to find the source of the fracture. Instead, they stand on the outside looking in, pressing their face against the glass of real intimacy, watching how normal couples and friends experience genuine warmth, safety, and mutual love. But they remain completely blind to the tragic truth of their own making. The freezing cold they feel in their chest is not because the cruel world is denying them love, and it is not because other people are incapable of caring for them. The bitter chill is entirely the result of the heavy, locked iron door sitting inside their own psyche, a door they built with their own hands, and a door they stubbornly, fearfully refuse to ever open. Taking the time to truly understand this deep, hidden internal suffering does not mean you are making excuses for their behavior. It does not erase the massive chaos, the emotional damage, and the painful confusion they have inflicted on your life or the lives of others. Bad behavior is still bad behavior, and their internal torture does not give them the right to burn down everyone around them. But gaining this clear psychological perspective does something completely revolutionary for you. It permanently shatters the myth that these people are invincible, untouchable giants. For too long, you might have looked at them and felt entirely helpless, as if you were dealing with a mastermind who was always 3 steps ahead. But the truth is that they are not grand puppet masters pulling the strings behind the scenes of the world. They are nothing of the sort. In reality, they are deeply wounded, terrified human beings, trapped inside a suffocating, self-constructed psychological prison of their own making. Every aggressive outburst, every manipulative game, and every arrogant statement is just the desperate rattling of a cell door by someone who is terrified of the empty space they live in. When you finally stop looking at them through the intimidating lens of their manufactured perfection and start seeing the actual bars of the cage they are trapped inside, the dynamic shifts completely. Their power over your emotions, your self-doubt, and your peace of mind vanishes entirely. You stop reacting with fear and start responding with clear, objective clarity. You realize with absolute certainty that what looks like absolute, unshakable power on the outside is nothing more than a quiet, tragic, and lifelong unraveling on the inside.